Have you ever witnessed a moment when someone's actions came back to haunt them almost immediately? Today's story is about exactly that. A powerful reminder that our choices have consequences, sometimes sooner than we expect. It was an ordinary Tuesday morning in downtown Seattle. The kind of morning where the smell of coffee drifted from every other storefront, and commuters hurried along rain-slicked sidewalks, umbrellas bobbing like dark flowers above the crowd. Among them was James Chen, a third-generation Chinese-American who owned the Golden Lotus, a small but popular restaurant that had been in his family for over 40 years. Every morning, James would arrive early to prepare the day's specialties, carrying on the traditions his grandmother had brought from Guangzhou. But this morning was different. As James approached his restaurant, he noticed something that made his heart sink. Sprawled across his storefront windows in angry red spray paint were the words, "Go back home," and several crude racial slurs. Security footage would later show a tall man in a dark jacket, his face partially hidden under a baseball cap, vandalizing the storefront at 3 a.m. But what the vandal didn't realize was that his actions were about to set off a chain of events he never could have predicted. As James stood there, phone in hand to call the police, something remarkable began to unfold. Sarah Martinez, a regular customer who worked at the coffee shop next door, saw what had happened. Without hesitation, she pulled out her phone and started live streaming. "Hey everyone, I'm outside the Golden Lotus, and look what some coward did overnight. Mr. Chen and his family have been feeding this community for decades. They're as much a part of Seattle as the Space Needle." Within minutes, the video began to spread across local social media. But that was just the beginning. As morning turned to afternoon, something unexpected happened. The very same security footage that captured the act of vandalism revealed something else about the perpetrator. The man in the footage wasn't just any random vandal. He was Marcus Thompson, a local real estate developer who had been trying to pressure several small business owners, including James, to sell their properties for a new high-rise development. The same Marcus Thompson who was scheduled to make a presentation to the city council that very afternoon about his ambitious development project. As James cleaned his windows, surrounded by volunteers from the neighborhood who had rushed to help, local news crews began arriving. The story was quickly becoming more than just another act of hate. It was becoming a tale of greed, prejudice, and the strength of a community standing together. But what happened next would prove that sometimes karma doesn't wait years or even days to make its presence known. It can arrive in mere hours, bringing with it a twist that no one could have anticipated. Would you like to know what happened when Marcus Thompson walked into that city council meeting, completely unaware that his early morning activities had been caught on camera? Stay tuned as we reveal how one man's hatred led to his own undoing, and how a community came together to stand against bigotry. As Marcus Thompson strode into City Hall that afternoon, his polished shoes clicking against the marble floor, he carried himself with the confidence of someone who believed they were untouchable. The council chambers were packed with residents, many of whom had come to voice concerns about his development project's impact on local businesses. What Thompson didn't notice was the unusual number of phones pointed in his direction, or the whispers that followed him as he made his way to the podium. He was too focused on the presentation he'd rehearsed countless times, a vision of gleaming towers that would modernize the neighborhood and bring it into the 21st century. Just as Thompson began his opening remarks, Councilwoman Diana Rodriguez raised her hand. The chamber fell silent. "Mr. Thompson, before you continue, I believe we need to address some disturbing footage that has come to our attention." The large screen behind the council table flickered to life. The security camera footage from the Golden Lotus began to play, crystal clear in its high-definition reality. Thompson's face, partially visible beneath his baseball cap, was unmistakable as he spray-painted his hateful messages. The color drained from Thompson's face as he watched himself on the screen. His carefully constructed facade of respectability crumbled in real time before the entire city council and a room full of witnesses, many of whom were already streaming this moment live on social media. The entire city council and a room full of witnesses, many of whom were already streaming this moment live on social media. But the revelations weren't finished. Councilwoman Rodriguez continued, "We've also received numerous testimonies from other business owners in the district. It seems, Mr. Thompson, that this isn't an isolated incident. We have evidence of a pattern of intimidation tactics targeting minority-owned businesses in the development zone." The next few minutes revealed a damning timeline. Email threads showing Thompson's company had been using shell corporations to pressure vulnerable business owners. And most dramatically, audio recordings of Thompson himself making racist remarks about the changing demographics of the neighborhood. Meanwhile, across town, something remarkable was happening at the Golden Lotus. What started as a few volunteers helping James clean his windows had transformed into an impromptu community gathering. Hundreds of locals had shown up, many carrying signs of support. Local restaurants sent food. Artists began sketching designs for a new mural to cover the cleaned wall, one that would celebrate the neighborhood's diversity. Sarah Martinez's livestream had evolved into an all-day broadcast, capturing the community's response in real time. "This is what Seattle really is," she told her growing audience. "When hate shows its face, love shows up in numbers." The story was picking up national attention. Local celebrities and politicians began sharing messages of support. But perhaps most significantly, investors and business partners started distancing themselves from Thompson's development project. James Chen, still processing the events of the day, found himself surrounded by neighbors he'd known for years and faces he'd never seen before. Mrs. Johnson, who'd been coming in for his grandmother's dumplings for 30 years, held his hand and said, "You're not just part of this community, dear. You are this community." But the day's most powerful moment was yet to come. As the afternoon sun cast long shadows across the cleaned storefront, James's teenage daughter Emily arrived from school. Seeing the crowd, she pushed through, worried something terrible had happened. Instead, she found her father being interviewed by major news networks about resilience, community, and the power of standing together against hate. The contrast couldn't have been starker. While Marcus Thompson faced the consequences of his actions in the council chambers, the very community he had tried to tear apart was growing stronger by the minute. But no one could have predicted what would happen next, as Thompson's carefully built empire began to crumble in ways that would reshape the entire neighborhood. The following days brought changes no one could have anticipated. As Thompson's development company scrambled to contain the PR nightmare, investors pulled out one by one. His dream of luxury high-rises began to collapse like a house of cards. Local news channels reported that Thompson had resigned from his position as CEO. But the real story wasn't about his downfall. It was about what rose from the ashes of his failed project. A coalition of local business owners, led by Sarah Martinez and supported by community leaders, proposed a new development plan to the city council. Their vision? A mixed-use space that would preserve existing businesses while adding affordable housing and a cultural center celebrating the neighborhood's diverse heritage. 2 weeks after the incident, the Golden Lotus hosted a special community dinner. The new mural on its wall had become a symbol of unity, a vibrant piece showing hands of different colors weaving together to form a lotus flower rising from adversity. James Chen stood before the gathered crowd, his family beside him, and shared words that would be remembered long after. Hate tried to write its message on our wall, but love wrote its response in our hearts. This restaurant isn't just my family's dream anymore. It's proof that when we stand together, hatred will always lose. The City Council unanimously approved the community-led development proposal. Thompson's attempt to divide the neighborhood had instead united it more strongly than ever. The Golden Lotus became more than just a restaurant. It transformed into a symbol of resistance against hate and a testament to the power of community. Today, if you visit the Golden Lotus, you'll find new photos on its walls alongside the old ones. Pictures of hundreds of community members helping to clean the graffiti, the unveiling of the Unity mural, and the celebration dinner that followed. Each one tells a story of triumph over hatred. As for Marcus Thompson, he was charged with hate crimes and property damage. But perhaps his real punishment was witnessing how his actions helped create exactly the opposite of what he intended, a stronger, more unified community that proved love will always be more powerful than hate. This story isn't just about instant karma. It's about the choice we all have, to build walls or bridges, to divide or unite, to hate or to love. What happened at the Golden Lotus reminds us that in the face of hatred, silence is never the answer. When we stand together, we transform acts of hate into monuments of hope. Now it's your turn to be part of this ongoing story. If this story moved you, there are 3 ways you can help create positive change. First, hit that subscribe button and click the notification bell. We bring you powerful stories of community triumph every week, and we want you to be part of our journey. Second, share this video with someone who needs to hear this message. Use the hashtag #StandAgainstHate to join the conversation and share your own stories of community strength. Finally, leave a comment below, telling us about a time when your community stood together against hatred. Your story could inspire thousands of others to take a stand. Remember, change doesn't always require grand gestures. Sometimes it starts with simple acts of kindness, with standing up for what's right, and with choosing love over hate. Thank you for watching Instant Karma, Racist Man's Cruel Act Boomerangs. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more stories that matter.